Mandalika did not whisper. It screamed. The air was heavy, the track shimmering like molten iron, and the first lap had barely drawn breath when turn 7 became an execution ground. Marc Márquez, 7-time MotoGP world champion, fresh from sealing another title, was cut down not by age, not by fatigue, but by a nudge from behind. Aprilia's lone blade, Marco Bezzecchi, came in too hot, too close, too desperate. His Aprilia's nose clipped the rear of Ducati's Red Bullet. Marquez was catapulted into gravel, his right shoulder fracturing on impact, ligaments tearing as though destiny itself had grown claws. The Ducati lay broken. Marquez sat stunned, his kingdom ripped from him by physics in less than 30 seconds. Bezzecchi's own bike crumpled, but he rose unscathed, condemned instead by the silence of the Aprilia garage and the roar of the backlash. One move had ended 2 races, gutted one factory's morale, and reopened every scar MotoGP had tried to hide. The crowd stood frozen, not cheering, not even breathing. This wasn't racing, it was punishment disguised as sport. So answer this: was this the universe's vengeance on Marquez for daring to rule again? Or was Bezzecchi's move the raw truth? MotoGP doesn't care for kings, only for chaos. Comment. The weekend started not with speed, but with sweat. Mandalika is not a racetrack, it is a furnace. Riders walk the paddock looking like soldiers under desert sun. Mechanics drenched, tires baking on asphalt that feels alive. Everyone knew, the first lap here is never a handshake, it's a knife fight. Ducati entered as the Empire. Marc Márquez, armed with the GP25, carried the aura of inevitability. Pecco Bagnaia stood behind him, faithful soldier, still clutching the burden of a fading crown. The garage smelled of dominance, but also fear, because when you rule this hard, every rival sharpens their blade for you. Aprilia, meanwhile, was cut in half. Jorge Martin was injured, absent. That left Marco Bezzecchi as Noali's only warrior. One man, one bike, one factory's reputation hanging by his throttle. The pressure was suffocating. Aprilia had no second plan. Bezzecchi either stood tall or drowned alone. KTM brought noise, rage, and risk. Pedro Acosta rode like a rookie possessed, Binder like a veteran who never cared for self-preservation. VR46, Morbidelli, and Di Giannantonio had hand-me-down GP24s, capable but not enough. Gresini's Alex Marquez and Aldeguer came hungry, hoping Mandalika would feed them a miracle. Pramac Yamaha's Miller and Oliveira, they looked like ghosts. The bikes lacked the firepower, the riders lacked momentum. Qualifying was less about grid slots and more about omens. Marquez planted himself near the front, inevitable, unstoppable. Bagnaia wasn't far behind. Bezzecchi lurked in striking distance, carrying all Aprilia's weight. The KTM boys glared from row 2, restless. Everyone felt the storm tightening. Tire choice split the paddock like poker chips. Ducati gambled balance. KTM went all in on grip. Aprilia doubled down, aggressive setup, soft bite. VR46 scattered, unsure. Everyone played dice with the Mandalika furnace, and history whispered curses. Catalunya 2019, Lorenzo wiping half the field. Jerez 2020, Marquez shattering his arm in a comeback gone wrong. Sepang 2015, the political war that never died. MotoGP repeats itself, and you could feel Mandalika lining itself up to be another scar. The crowd packed the grandstands, drunk on humidity and the promise of fire. They didn't know they'd be witnesses, not spectators. They thought they came for speed. What they got was a crash that rewrote destiny. So ask yourself, do we overrate Saturday gladiators when Sunday can erase everything in one heartbeat? And deeper, when factories gamble with setups, are riders still masters of their fate or pawns trapped in engineers' war? Lights out. The grid exploded. Marquez launched perfect, Ducati red arrow slicing the humidity. Bagnaia tucked behind. Bezzecchi surged, desperate to prove Aprilia wasn't a ghost factory. The KTM wolves howled behind. Binder elbows out, Acosta carving impossible lines like a kid who doesn't understand fear yet. Turn 1, survived. Turn 4, survived. The pack stretched, shuffled, elbows, contact, chaos. But by turn 7, destiny had sharpened its knife. Bezzecchi braked late, too late. His Aprilia slid inward, its nose brushing the tail of Marquez's Ducati. Physics doesn't forgive small errors. At 200 km/h, that touch was a guillotine. Marquez was catapulted, flung into Mandalika's gravel like a soldier blown from a trench. His shoulder tore, his right arm screaming betrayal. The Ducati spun like shrapnel. Bezzecchi crashed too, his bike crumpled in dust. He rose, helmet shaking, alive but guilty. His factory stood silent. His rivals whispered murder. The paddock did not care about intent, only the outcome. Marquez down, Ducati bleeding, Aprilia disgraced. The race continued, cruel as war. Bagnaia tried to lead, but KTM gave no mercy. Binder slashed through. Acosta lunged like a street fighter with no respect for kings. VR46 picked scraps. Gresini clawed. Pramac Yamaha dissolved into irrelevance. But every lap was shadowed by Turn 7's execution. No overtake mattered more. No sector time erased the scar. And the questions sharpened. When a rider lunges reckless and survives, do we celebrate courage or stupidity? Was Bezzecchi's instinct genius or gambling with another man's body? And KTM's constant crashes, rookies eating gravel, veterans bleeding, is it just luck or a factory flaw written into their DNA? Collapse is not only mechanical, it's psychological, it's political. Mandalika delivered collapse like shrapnel. Marc Márquez collapsed in body. His right shoulder, the joint cursed since Jerez 2020, betrayed him again. 7 crowns, endless scars, and still he was left clutching an arm that refuses to heal. Ducati's empire trembled. Their golden weapon was shattered not by tactics, but by another man's miscalculation. Marco Bezzecchi collapsed in reputation. Aprilia handed him the weight of their factory. He carried it into Turn 7 and dropped it in the dirt. With Martin absent, Aprilia had no backup. One mistake silenced the whole garage. Fans branded him reckless. The stewards marked him for penalty in Australia. His name now echoes not as hero, but as cautionary tale. Ducati collapsed in aura. Bagnaia carried the fight but faltered against KTM's wildness. VR46's riders looked mercenary, scavenging without direction. Gresini's hunger couldn't replace a legend. For the first time in 2025, Ducati looked mortal. Aprilia collapsed entirely. With Bezzecchi down, their garage was hollow. No points, no defense, no credibility. They came to Mandalika with one sword, and it snapped in the first charge. KTM collapsed in consistency. Acosta's brilliance glimmered, Binder's fury roared, but both ended marked by chaos. They are revolutionaries bleeding on their own barricades. Mandalika joined the graveyard of collapses. Sepang 2015's meltdown, Catalunya 2019's kamikaze, Jerez 2020's destruction. Now Mandalika 2025, the day Ducati's god was thrown down and Aprilia's lone blade condemned. The Scar asks, do champions ever learn from collapses, or are they trapped in MotoGP's cursed cycle? Should factories shield their riders from such chaos, or is collapse itself the only way greatness proves itself? Strip the smoke, forget the excuses. Mandalika was inevitability. Marquez's crash was not Bezzecchi's alone. It was the return of fate. His right shoulder has stalked him for 5 years, a wound that defines eras. From Jerez 2020 to Mandalika 2025, that joint has been MotoGP's cruel hourglass. His empire rises, his shoulder breaks, again and again. Bezzecchi's move was instinct, not assassination. But instinct at turn 7 on lap 1 is not bravery. It's gambling. He didn't mean to take Marquez down, but MotoGP doesn't judge intent, it judges scars. His penalty for Australia won't erase the whisper. Reckless fool or just cursed by desperation? Factories revealed their fragility. Ducati bent without Marquez. Aprilia disappeared without backup. KTM showed brilliance but fed its children to chaos. VR46 scavenged. Gresini chased shadows. Pramac Yamaha faded. Mandalika stripped the facade. MotoGP remains a war zone where gods fall and mortals inherit suspicion. So let's end with daggers, not comfort. Was Mandalika genius and chaos in collision, or just another rerun of MotoGP's eternal Lap 1 destruction script? If Rossi or Stoner had today's GP25 in their hands, would Marquez, Bagnaia, Bezzecchi, or any of these heroes even survive the comparison?